welcome to Jazz Emporium. So today's video is going to be a channeled message on Freddie Mercury because his birthday was September the 5th. And also, furthermore, there's going to be one about Amy Winehouse. So for those who really want to see those things, stay tuned and keep watching because I will be uploading that very shortly this week. So, with Jazz Emporium, I will be also doing a video for Liam Payne, an update on his court case, and I want people to submit their questions on any other questions they would want to ask. Please do submit the questions on the community board. So for those who really want to know certain questions, please do so. And no hateful questions, no questions on Kate, no questions on anybody else that's like really hateful or anything like that, guys. Like, keep it civil and stuff like that. And nothing about the P. Diddy case with the Liam Payne case, because I don't channel that there was anything. They're not tied. So, and please, no hatred. No hatred. No hate. No hate. This is for entertainment purposes only. So, don't sue me. Don't shoot the messenger. Haha. No pun intended, because Freddie Mercury is the messenger god. And ironically, I do wear him around my neck. So, anywho, if you do want to book a personal reading, please do so at jazzemporium.com. For international people, though, please email me at jazzemporium.com. Or it's jazzemporium@gmail.com. My mistake. Have another one, right? And we can arrange payment arrangements there that way. And please submit to my website or subscribe to my website. And I will be doing further newsletters and 20% off deals, you know. 20% off deals is Jazz 20. So that would be good for you guys. And let's see. Hope you enjoyed the Freddie Mercury montage. And I shall see you in the channel message reading. The reason why I picked Freddie Mercury is because he was a big inspiration for me for music that way. And Freddie Mercury has always been a very interesting person. He's got a larger-than-life personality. And, you know, it's a shame that his life was cut short by HIV/AIDS, you know. So I think he should be well honored and well respected. And I hope you guys do enjoy this reading. And much love to you guys. And bye for now.
I don't really think about my God. When I'm dead, are they going to remember me? I don't really think about it. It's up to them. When I'm dead, who cares? I don't need to.
Hello, welcome to Jazz Emporium. So today's reading is going to be Freddie Mercury. So I'm going to write down his original name, Farok Bursara, and aka Freddie Mercury, because I guess he legally changed his name, but since we're going to be doing to the authentic, we want to get to the authentic name. So thank you for enjoying this reading, and hopefully everything will go well. So Farok Bursara, Freddie Mercury. Okay, let me get my clear quartz crystal. I almost forgot my clear quartz. Have another one, Jazz. Nah, I'm not inebriated or high or anything. We never do that during readings, but, you know, let's get on with it. So, September 5th, 1946 is his birthday. Okay, so let's go. Let's spiral. First thing Freddie said is, "Hello, darling." Darling. He's all very nice. He goes, darling. He goes, "It's been a while since somebody's channeled me." He says, he's drawing me. He goes, "Let's go way back to my past," he said. And he's got very, like, I know he has like a big overbite. He said, "Never bothered to fix it. I thought it would affect my singing." So he had extra teeth in his mouth, he's indicating to me. He's showing me, like, he's like lots of teeth, he said. He said he never got that fixed because he was scared that it would affect his singing ability. So I'm going to be drawing some teeth here. He's showing me his teeth. Okay, he said his teeth. He goes, I was actually in a very he's like, as he's like thinking, I'm seeing like he's like, I don't want to say sucks on his teeth, but he's like, I came from a very well-off family in Tanzania, he said Tanzania, which is now, or Zanzibar, which would now be Tanzania, he said. So Zanzibar, so he's referring back to his life in Zanzibar. That's just off the coast of Africa, he says. And my father worked in the government. My mom was a homemaker. He said I was very close to my mother. He says my mother Jur and my father Bami. He says I was very close to my family. He goes, good thoughts, good words, good deeds. We were very highly Zoroastrian. There was a very strict rule. My father did lay down the law when he wanted to, but they also encouraged my creativity, especially my mother. They all kind of knew that I was gay, he said, and I knew from when I was a young boy in boarding school in Bombay, he said, that I was gay. So he knew, he said, out of being masculine or feminine in this world, I took more after the feminine, he says. I was more feminine. He said, I was very much, I really loved strong women. He said he loved women, but he said I couldn't see myself be with a woman because in my past life, I was a woman. So he held very strong to his past life, and I'm hearing he was a performer even in his last past life, and he was a female performer. He said for Broadway shows, I'm hearing opera and Broadway. I was an opera singer and a Broadway singer. Or one of the two. I'm getting either or Broadway or opera. So he goes, that was a hard thing in my life, that I had to hide a lot of my homosexuality to survive. Back then, especially because it was not very accepted, especially where I was from in my original country of Zanzibar. He goes, it was very not accepted, and not even Zoroastrian. And for those who don't know, Zoroastrian is an old Persian culture, religion, and it predates, it was one of the first monotheistic religions. And it was one of the first, and it was Persia. So he spoke Farsi. He goes, my parents, I speak both Farsi and English. He goes, I speak a couple different languages and even some Japanese, he said. So let me just have a drink. Sorry guys, I have to keep my I always get a dry throat, guys. Sorry, I have to keep my pipes winded, lubed up here. Okay, so he showed me off the coast of Africa. He goes, the reason why my family fled is because Zanzibar was having a revolution back then, and we left for Fulham, England, he said. So we traveled, and then he showed me the plane. He showed me how they had to go on the plane to go to England and stuff. He said he was excited. He said he was sad that he had to leave his home country, but because of the boarding school, he said, because he had to go from Zanzibar to Bombay, India for his boarding school, he goes, I was used to traveling. I was excited to see something new. And he goes, and I've always been into music, even rock music, even from a young age, like the old 50s tunes and stuff. We would get that imported off the coast, but we would always get it like 3 months later, he said, from the original date of when something was released, because we were a porting town. He goes, Zanzibar is a good place if you want to go on vacation, but it's not always the greatest place to go and live. You know, because again, it's such a small little place, he says. It's like almost like an island for like, what's it called? An island, he goes, for like, you know, tourists and attractions and stuff like that. And he goes, and we settled in England. And yes, we faced a lot of adversary. A lot of people didn't like our culture coming into their culture in London, England, he said. But we adapted. We learned and we adapted very quickly, he said. That was one thing. We learned and we adapted very quickly. It was a bit tough, but we managed. He goes, I was always an optimist in my life. Even at the face of adversary, he said I was always an optimist. I always try to see the brighter side of things. You know, even despite of myself being lonely at times or not feeling like I fit in, he said, I've always tried to see the brighter side of life, he said. And he's shown me himself, like all the times he changed throughout the years, from the long hair to the mustache to shaving it off to even to the end where he was very sickly. And I'm just seeing this bright yellow sunny aura. You know, he goes, that's probably why I like the color yellow, because it's so bright and sunny. He says, you know, I'm hearing keep on the brighter side of life, or I'm also hearing lap with the gods. And I said, Freddie, how did you find your voice? He goes, I was inspired by Aretha Franklin. He said he loved Aretha Franklin's voice. And that would be, side note, future somebody I'm going to channel too is Miss Aretha Franklin. She's so gorgeously pretty. He goes, I've always admired strong women. And he goes, and that's why I fell for Mary Austin. She was kind and sweet, but quiet, but very strong. And she wouldn't let me get away with very much. He said, Mary was like my wife almost. He goes, I knew I couldn't be with her, but I always loved Mary, he said. And yes, he goes, I love my partner, Jim Hutton. Don't get me wrong. I really love Jim. He goes, and he's also indicating to me that Jim's right by his side when he's at his interview. He goes, that's my soulmate. That's my partner. He goes, Mary, I loved her nurturing, motherly ways and how she always made me feel so accepted and endeared. And he goes, and Jim was always the one that kept me real and grounded, he said. Both of them did, just in very different ways. He goes, I was a bisexual man. He goes, I did have partners with both genders, but I leaned more towards men because, again, he indicates I'm more of a feminine energy than a masculine energy. Yes, I could be brave and bravado on stage because he says that's almost like a persona. He goes, I always built an extra persona because I had to hide who I really was underneath the surface. And, you know, back then people were not as accepting as they are now. And he goes, and I've watched the world now. He's indicating like he watches from wherever he is on the other side. He says, and well, I'm so proud of how far we come for tolerance and acceptance, but we still need to work on that, he says. He said, a lot of my feelings, I had a hard time expressing my feelings outwardly towards others, but I did that through my music. My music was my legacy. He goes, I always wanted to write stuff that would be on a universal level for everybody to enjoy, he said, because that's how I wanted to leave my mark in the world. I knew I was going to be a legend. I didn't just want to be a typical rock star. He goes, and I thought, he goes, and I didn't think when I was composing stuff how much of an impact it was going to have on the world, he said. You know, he goes, I was just being myself. And he's like, the way, he's just like, he's very expressive with how he talks and communicates. Like he's just, and he cracks a lot of jokes too. He's very much like, very confident. He goes, oh, darling, that didn't come overnight. I had to work at that. You know, like he's just so open. Like the bodily expressions that he's showing me, how he's expressing himself is very open. He goes, when I met the 4 guys in Queen, when I met the other 3 guys in Queen, or technically Roger and Brian, he goes, you have to really thank them because they were the driving force that got this off the ground to begin with. And then he goes, and then John came later. He goes, they were hesitant to let me join, he says, because I was in another band called Ibex, and I had another band prior to Queen, but it just wasn't, he goes, darling, they just weren't, like, they weren't seeing eye to eye with me. They thought I was being too campy. A lot of people knew he was gay, but, you know, they didn't really say very much. And he goes, people that were in my life, he says they accepted it, and they just accepted it as is. But it was still a very secret thing. Like he says, especially out in the press and the media, I thought it wasn't their damn business, he said, what or who I was with. You know, that was for me. I had one part of my life that I kept to the world, he said, but my other half of my life, I kept for myself because I wanted my privacy. What I showed out to the public is what I allowed them to see, but I wanted my private life to myself, he said. And, you know, I wanted that secrecy, and I didn't want people nosing in and basically like, who are you with and what are you doing? He goes, it's always, when you're in the fame like that, you have to keep those things separate, your persona and your private life, because it gets very draining. And he goes, and you don't want people following you around. And I just wanted my peace and sanity. When I was off the road, I was off the road, and I had my breaks, even though I was a hard worker. He goes, I kept to myself, and I was, you know, had my close friends, family. That's why I kept my circle very tight, he said. And he goes, and yes, I was a naughty boy at times. He goes, I indulged with a lot of partying, a lot of sex. He goes, I had lots and lots and lots of sex. And he's grinning at that. He goes, one of the great joys in life, he goes, he's the type that likes physical touch and intimacy, and he goes, hey, I was young, I was proud, I did whatever I want, he goes, I had a very open mind that would try anything. And he's sitting there smoking a cigarette, grinning at me, going, yeah, he's sitting there smoking, and he's just like, he just gives me a little nod wink. He goes, we might want to keep it G-rated for your viewers. And he goes, he liked taking risks. And he goes, and unfortunately, me partying, being carefree, and taking risks is what cost me my life. But in a weird twist of fate, my life that I tried to keep secret was exposed. And that was actually a learning lesson for me. And mind you guys, side note, when he says that like that, his HIV/AIDS was not a punishment. So anyone that catches any STDs, STIs, it's not a punishment. It was a lesson for him about being comfortable within himself, but it was not a punishment. When someone's sick like that, no. So I have to really emphasize that, because people are going to be like, well, what the hell do you mean by that? So the higher lesson of his life journey was to come out in acceptance. Not to be exposed out as to say, it was to finally be at ease and okay with who and how he was. And he said he always wanted to have a sense of family. He says, if I would have been alive longer, Jim and I would have had a child, or we would have adopted a kid, or we would have been cool uncles to, our nieces and nephews. And he goes, and my fur babies. He goes, my children were my cats, he said. My kids were my cats. He goes, he's showing me all the cats he had. He goes, I had a lot of cats. And he would talk to them on the phones, he said, because he goes, I know I couldn't bear human children. He goes, so I put my love and nurturing side to the cats, he said. And yes, I had my friends Phoebe, Daisy. We all gave each other actresses' names. Barb and all that stuff. He goes, Peter Stryker, he says. He was pretty cool. But he said within even that, the group at the end, Paul Prentier, he goes, that really made me really upset that he would sell me out like that. And yes, Paul Stryker was a very adverse effect on me. He had a very subversive effect on me. And, we were more reckless even in that state when I was doing my solo album. When Queen took a little break, he goes, the magic I experienced with those three guys was immeasurable, and I would have never asked for anything better. He goes, yeah, we did get into rows. He goes, we are very strong personalities, like a bunch of cocks fighting. And he goes, a bunch of cocks fighting. Darling, a bunch of cocks fighting. I'm like, and he's like, basically what he's trying to say is, they all had strong personalities, and he was oftentimes, he said he was the mediator between strong personalities. Like Brian and Roger would get into it, and then Freddie would have to step in. Or he goes, John, lovely John, sweet old John, he would be very the quiet one, but John could be very cutting, he said. He goes, just because John sits there and doesn't say much, that doesn't mean when he doesn't get mad, he knows how to sling his words. He goes, I was very close to John too, because we were like the opposite, he said. John was very quiet, and I was very loud and in your face, like out in public, but we had that quiet, mutual, introverted understanding. He goes, the way that I convey my words in my music is how I naturally feel inside, he says. I try to express that outwards to my music to convey an emotion or thought or feeling of how I'm feeling on a universal level, because what I mostly wrote about was love. And we need that more into the world. Tolerance, acceptance, and love. Because he also had he said he had a very bad coke addiction too, and alcoholism. He goes, the reason why I engaged in a lot of sexual activity was to drown out the loneliness and the noise in my head. He said, and the reason why I experimented a lot, because I wanted to be free. I wanted to live in a world where I was free to indulge and express. And he goes, fuck it, darling. I have the money. I had all the stuff. I said, why not live a little? I'm a very organized man, but fuck it. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something to the extreme. He goes, I've always been like that. If I want to go into something, and I do it on an extreme, big, grandiose way. I wonder if Freddie has a Leo placement, because that's a very Leo thing. Big, grandiose, and and he goes, I was also a very generous person to a fault. And that's what got me in the end too. I was very generous. Too generous to certain people I shouldn't have had in my life, he said. But, I was a very generous person because I loved very deeply. And I was always very giving, and I wanted people to give me that love back, but sometimes I gave it to the wrong people and they would take advantage of it, and that's sad. Because he goes, I was a lonely person on the inside that just wanted love and acceptance. And that's why I did all what I did with my career and stuff. You know, the crowds, he goes, I had them in the palm of my hand because I loved them that much. And I wanted to raise that vibration. He's also mentioning Princess Diana. And that's another one he hangs out with on the other side, is Princess Diana. And he goes, I met Aretha. She goes, that was brilliant. We finally had a better meeting, because he said, when I saw her in concert, she didn't really play as well, or it was either play as well, or she was only on there for a short time, and that's that, and that was that. And he goes, and I said, Freddie, what can people take from your lesson in music? Live to life to the fullest, darling. Don't forget yourselves, and love one another. He goes, love one another. You know, be more tolerant and acceptance. You know, right now we're going through big changes in this world. He says we need to learn how to be more tolerant and accepting to each other. That's why I gravitated, he goes, to the gay community. And that's why, you know, the gay community taught me more tolerance and acceptance. Whether you're gay, straight, bi, trans, he goes, we need more acceptance and tolerance and understanding. You know, because we lack we lack empathy and compassion and understanding. And especially with our leaders today, he says, you know, we need to be more understanding and tolerant of each other, and not so mean or nasty towards each other. And we need to indulge in our creativity side and not be so, he goes, not be so clinical and cold, he says. You know, we need to dive into our creativity and not be so, you know, rigid, and, you know, we all have to think alike and be alike. That's stand in your own individuality, and I had to, he goes. Anything else, Freddie? Anything else? He said he would have wanted to work with Monstrat, and that's another one too. I think her name is Monistat Cabaret. She's an opera singer that Freddie collaborated with. He goes, I finally got to see her too, and he was like, I love her voice. She was so beautiful to work with. And when she saw me come up, when I saw her finally come up to heaven, I gave her kisses on the cheek and stuff. And he goes, finally, we get to go and make music again. You know, he was hoping if he was alive more, he said he would have wrote operas and stuff. He wanted to get more into opera. He wanted to experiment more with different types of music and stuff, and orchestral and opera. He goes, composing, he said, I wanted to do more composing. And he goes, and if I would have been alive, I would have collaborated with Lady Gaga and various other different people. He goes, you know, some of the music these days, he goes, very different types of music, and they're becoming more accepting of others. Sam Roberts is another one he said he would have collaborated with. And I said to him, would Queen still be around if you were around today? He goes, oh, darling, yes. We would have done it until we fucking well died, he says. We would have took breaks, though. It wouldn't be always consistent. And mind you, we would still be fighting like cackling hens, but we'd still be there. So rest assured you, we would have still been fucking Queen, he said. And he goes, it was a pleasure to have you. So he's shutting out the channeling. Okay. And we're finished. Okay, that was a great reading. I would probably do a part 2 of Freddie. This would probably be like a part 1. But, well, for now, until I decide to redo them again. Because, again, you know, unless the channeling goes really long, because I don't want to make these too long, because a lot of people won't watch them. So thank you for watching this. Now, if you do want to book a personal reading, I also do mediumship. Please do so at jazzemporium.com. For those who are international, jazzemporium@gmail.com, because I'm still working on the nuances of, you know, international pay and stuff. And also, please subscribe to my website so you could get deals and different types of things to do with my website. And thank you, and bye for now.